you became involved with the project, and a little bit about Simon as a director of actors.
Well, I came across the project. I was actually in New York doing a play, and I was sent the script. I had studied art history at university, so I knew a bit about Kenneth Clark, who was Colin Clark's dad. So I heard about that sort of background, and so that kind of spiked my curiosity, I suppose. And then read the script and realised I had a weird amount in common with this guy, and got really engaged with it. And then so I just auditioned for Simon, and then Michelle was filming Toronto, and went up there, and we had a screen test there, and then from then on it was the most wonderful ride, really. And Simon I'd known through socially through theatre in London, and it was the most wonderful experience. And I think I speak for Michelle here as well, but on this film, as you see, there's the most staggering group of British actors. They were sort of idols of mine, and so certainly for me, every day it was like you were going to work and getting to share a scene with one of the great knights of the realm, or Judi Dench. And the reason so many extraordinary actors were working on this film was because they love working for Simon, and he has a wonderful facility with actors. So it was this whole idea that plays in the film of theatre and film intermingling. I think kind of worked quite well in that sense.
Questions? Yes, here.
Stunning. I just want to say that up front. I was in class with Lee and Paula and Marilyn, and I must say that Michelle, you just caught the private Marilyn that I knew outside of the image. But my question to Simon is, Paula, a cash cow, is sort of one of the lines that is in the film. Do you think that she was as bad as people say she was?
No, I don't actually. I think just repeat the question. Firstly, the gentleman who knew Marilyn Monroe says compliments Michelle on so precisely capturing what the private Marilyn really was like. And then for Simon, asks if he feels that Paula Strasberg was really as manipulative and self-interested as she comes across seeming to this viewer in the film.
No, I mean, I think, we had tremendous respect for all the characters in the film, and I think this is a very important moment in Marilyn's life. She'd moved to this city, to New York, and had, I think, fallen in love with the method. I mean, you know much more about that than I do, but I think it offered something to her in her process of becoming what she really wanted to be, a great actress. And along with Milton Green and the Strasbergs, and then, of course, newly married to the great Arthur Miller, it was a very significant moment in her life, and I think it was a big and bold decision for her to come to England. And I think Miller wrote that Paula was the fantasy mother in Marilyn's life, or something like that. Don't quote me, but she was the mother who would praise her in the way Marilyn's own mother hadn't done. And we were very, very keen not to parody, to mock the method, be an English production mocking of the method, because I take the method very seriously personally, and Marilyn certainly did. And it's a film about sort of culture clashes on all kinds of levels. But we certainly didn't feel we were in the Olivier camp in Britain mocking the method, because I, as I say, greatly admire the Strasberg School of Acting. And as it must be said, did Zoe Wanamaker, who obviously has a tradition, she's American, and she took very seriously her own research in Paula and in the method.
Well, I wanted to compliment you on your singing, and I wanted you to talk about what you did to train or prepare for that, because it's a hard thing to do, singing in general, and then to do someone else's voice. And then, Eddie, did it bring back any memories of your youth and your past and your naive moments in the theater?
The question for Michelle about preparing to sing in the film, particularly to sing in the voice of somebody else, and then for Eddie about whether the part brought back any memories of his own naive youth, which clearly is not that long ago.
like I said, Marilyn Monroe was a creation, and that creation took a lot of personal work, and she also had, it was teachers, trainers were sort of more common then, professionals that would sort of help make these stars and help develop these talents. I was, as she was, very lucky on this movie to be surrounded and supported by great people. So I had a wonderful man, David Crane, who worked with me every day for a couple of weeks and taught me about, I'm not a singer, I have not sang since I was 10 years old or something. So he taught me about breathing and about how to deliver emotion on lines instead of just the words. So I had him, and then in my years I listened to, I still, it comes up on my iPod all the time on the Marilyn Monroe. I listened to her, and she was very influenced by Ella Fitzgerald, and so I listened to a lot of that.
Did I relate? Yes, it did remind me a lot of my youth. There was one extraordinary moment where we were actually shooting at Eton College, and I was showing Marilyn Monroe. Colin was showing Marilyn Monroe around Eton College, and that was the school that I went to. And so we were doing this scene, and Harvey was there, and Michelle was there, and there were all these schoolboys were playing the parts. And my old head of drama was there, so stood outside, going, and there was a sort of wonderful moment, when we did that scene, walking through, and all the guys were just, and Michelle sort of spontaneously improvised a kiss on one of them, and the guy just went beetroot, and they would sort of take me aside, so, she's lovely, she's very smart. There were wonderful moments. I mean, I think one of the great things with the whole production was the sense that we shot in the studio that the Prince and the Showgirl was shot in. Oh, and like I say, your dressing room. Yeah.
My dressing room was Marilyn's actual dressing room when she was making Prince and Showgirl.
So there were all these elements.
And Parkside House was playing Parkside House. So when Marilyn is sitting on those stairs, having looked at Miller's journal, Michelle sat on the very stairs that Marilyn was sat at. And one of the great moments for me was when Michelle did that wonderful dance from The Prince and the Showgirl. And we were actually seeing that on the stage, the very spot that I think was in 1956 that Marilyn actually danced in that very spot. Was incredibly moving and incredibly special.
You, ma'am? Yes.
I felt that the movie also tried to comment about the celebrity culture and the difference between the celebrity culture of today and in the 50s. And I want to ask Michelle about that, if maybe you can, what, in your eyes, what is the biggest difference between then and the young changes?
There's a question about the difference in celebrity culture today versus in the 1950s. The film seems to some extent to comment on that, and could Michelle say what she feels the biggest difference is in celebrity culture today versus then?
The internet.
What? Can you elaborate?
It's just the acceleration and proliferation of information. It's always existed, and it just has more forms to take.
Yes, sir.
I have a question that's sort of following up on the preparation from the films. That first opening scene where you're doing a musical number, I kept thinking about what's called the greatest piece of ass in the planet. Did you have help there? Was that all you?
It's a follow-up question about preparing for the musical numbers in the film.
Well, I think it was a little more than something else, which I don't know.
It's the magic of cinema, that's all we can say.
Yes.
Could you talk a bit about the change